All right, welcome everybody. This is a bit of a special episode as this is my first interview for the channel. I have the two creators of Where the Wheat Grows Tall with me here. I have Evlyn Moreau here. Evlyn, you are the artist and co-writer, correct?
Yes, I did all the illustrations and I did co-wrote with Camilla.
Oh, perfect. And Camilla, you're the editor and the other co-writer, correct? Am I mistaken in that?
Yeah, I did writing and editing and helping with some of like the planning and dealing with Kickstarter complications.
Oh, perfect. So when you guys like co-write, is there one person who did way more of the writing, or is it more of a 50-50? Who's the...
Writing was something that we always did as an active process together, like at the same time on a voice call usually.
Oh,
So
wow.
it can't really be drawn out like that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So that's like, so you guys were together for pretty much all of it. There wasn't any sort of like going off on your own and doing it, and coming back together with new stuff. It was all just sort of together.
Well, there was only like a later last edit pass that Camilla did alone. Like she reread everything and check everything was okay and modify a few things on her own. But beside that, yeah, were on a voice call when we were
Oh, awesome.
writing.
Actually, so I think it was that we were, excuse me if I remember a little differently, but we were always doing kind of like minor, like non-substantive edits, like little tweaks and improvements on things all the time. But when we would have like significant changes or addition or removing stuff, that's what we would do together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I absolutely love the cover. You showed it there, and I mean, this is great. It's a really nice little book. How long did the cover take
Yeah.
you to do? Was that like a lot of work?
Well, I will take that opportunity to mention that we need to mention Dai or layout artist Dai Sugar that did a really great work with the layout. And so for the layout, I only did the illustration
Okay.
and I also drew the patterns for the backgrounds. And but that the design itself, it's from Dai. Dai did the cover design and also the back cover. Again, I did the illustration for the things, but that's Dai that did
Oh,
the
perfect.
design of the cover. Yeah, we were very happy with what
Yeah, no, it
Dai
is.
did.
It is absolutely a gorgeous cover. I mean, the whole book. One thing I loved. So I ran it, or at least the first part. We're gonna do our second session on Saturday. They loved it, by the way. So far, they were like, "Can we get a second session?" Because it was only meant to be like one session, so I could get one in before the interview today. But they're like, it was so much fun. We gotta like finish this, see where it goes. So we're doing it again Saturday. And one thing that was great that there's art for like everything. So they constantly love you, just being able to like, here's this thing, here's what you see. Um, it's all been like really awesome. How long? Oh, go
To
ahead.
warn you, you're probably not going to finish it in the second session. Things get drawn out at the end.
Yeah,
Usually.
I know. Well, that's the thing. There's so much in it, and like one thing too I noticed about this one, and I wonder if you guys have any reason why you did this. I noticed this versus most dungeon crawls has like way more roleplay potential, which I thought was really awesome. Like there's way more. Not there is a lot of combat if you want there to be, but if you want things to be a bit more like roleplay wise, like you can really do that. Is there a reason why you guys want more roleplay in it versus the classic dungeon crawl hack and slash?
Well, because it was kind of a fairy inspired thing. I think what is really fun with fairies creatures is interacting with them. So yeah, we wrote nearly all the encounters to be interactive with the players' characters in other way than combats. But I think there's a good tension with most of these encounters that they can always become dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Like you can discuss with them, but there's a feeling of menace or danger that is in the background. So that was my main goal with these encounters. And yeah, and we had a lot of fun with
Yeah, it seems like
designing
it.
them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the little, I love the description, the little childlike murder goblins. They have been really fun to play around with, just depending on the scene they're in. They are totally different. Like, their whole mood and how they act towards the players has been really fun. The players are very wary of them, but also kind of find them adorable, so it's a little bit of a fun dichotomy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a little more I can add to the last question too.
Oh, yes, please.
Um, one thing is that we wanted the adventure to be fairly system neutral, and part of that is having interesting choices that you can easily interpret that don't need like real strict specific mechanics for them. So that informed a lot of the encounters, in like keeping them more in like the role-playing imaginative space. And we always wanted, like, I think, if there was gonna be a fight, that it wasn't just like, you know, like a murder fight to the death, but that, like, you want something, they want something, and there's like an actual narrative conflict going on, not just like a JRPG battle.
No, and I think that's great because for anybody watching, I'm going to try and avoid spoilers where I can, just so you can enjoy it yourself. But there's two factions. There's like the ghosts and the crows in that one area, and the players did have like with the different reasoning between the two different factions. They really had a little bit of like, oh, like what side do we go with? So they had a little bit of time. They had a lot of fun deciding who do we actually side with on this conflict. Like, it was very simple, but at the same time, very much like they had fun just talking with each other about that. So yeah, no, it was definitely wasn't just a fight to the death, but there was a little bit more. They found that very interesting.
Accomplished.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no. You guys accomplished, I think, everything that you guys want to set out for, mostly.
Also, we did. Sorry, my voice was sore this week, so it will go. And so one of the things that there's one encounter that is very aggressive that will attack to go for the kill, and so I think that making all the other encounters more like being able to discuss and negotiate make that encounter even more like special.
And that encounter that you're talking about, which people watching who know the module know what we're talking about, that one came at the end of the crow and ghost thing, and that's where we ended off last time with that going on. So we're picking up like in the middle of of quite the action scene next time. So I'm excited to see where that goes because it's pretty terrifying. And great art for it.
Table and make you change your mind.
Go ahead.
What are you using for? What are you playing with?
So I'm using I'm using Old School Essentials because from reading the book, I don't know. I know you guys have it as agnostic, and I know you put out an email and you probably have to answer a million times what the system's for. But I read through and I was like, just the way this is laid out, I can immediately tell this is made for OSC. Like, I don't know if you guys played Winter's Daughter, but it reminded me so much of Winter's Daughter, and like just the whole Dolmenwood vibe. I was just like, oh, I love this. This is great.
Yeah, we started with OSC as the base, but as we go, it became more agnostic.
I also the familiarity with Winter's Daughter is definitely real. I love the way that book is keyed, like the readability and the usability of things. And I took a lot of lessons from that. So
yeah, no, it really shows because it just gives you exactly what you need for each encounter. And usually for things you can just flip back to be like, oh, what's this about? Oh, this is said like at the beginning of the book. So I thought that was great. Just reading through it, I think honestly you could probably do a very nice small little campaign with this and Winter's Daughter and maybe Hole in the Oak, just a bunch of different little like Fey adventures I think with OSC, and throw this one in there, which I think would be like a great one. This is like almost like I don't know, like the Albertan Plains part of Dolmenwood, just just nothing but plains for days with this. Yeah, no, that really showed. Did you guys just go with agnostic just because, like, as you said, Evlyn, was just because? Was there like a licensing problem like the OGL, or was it more just, oh, it's easier if we just say you can use whatever system with this? Was there any reason, like, or was it just more, we felt like it?
So, well, I think it's just we wanted it to be accessible for more people, you know, because I know that, well, for me it was mostly like an old school adventures, but I know that there's many different old school systems.
Oh my god, yes.
And we also knew that it could be fun if like 5e game masters could use it with a little bit of note and modification maybe, but still. So
yeah, no, that's really smart, because I do think there are a lot of people out there, especially game masters in 5e, who'll go, oh, this says it's for this system, I probably shouldn't use it. But if you kind of just go, oh, it's, you know, for any system, I think that's a smart way to do it. A lot more people will maybe gravitate towards it a bit better.
Yeah, naturally there's always some kind of I think it's more balanced for old school game, and I know that 5e monsters have like a bit more hit points and stuff. So
yeah, it's much more of a tactics game versus this, but I still think this would run pretty well for a low level 5e game. I think, just from a
That was one of my playtests.
Oh, really?
Was a low level 5e.
How did it go?
It went really well. I at the time when I was running the playtest, and before that I worked at a board game store. So I often had the interesting challenge of having like OSR sensibilities and bringing those to the table for like a 5e audience. So like during that playtest, I was testing, the choices. How do they respond to the descriptions and the setups? Which is where we put our design focus, not are the numbers correct for the hit points.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because those are more incidental to the encounters like you're talking about, that's why it's really easy to adapt it.
In the 5e playtest, was it like really deadly at all, or did they all survive? What was the outcome? How'd they find it like overall?
They balanced their the durability of 5e characters with the recklessness of their choices. Their headlong speed in combat. Which is why I found usually when I ran stuff for 5e, I would kind of run it exactly the same, like just as lethal, and then the players would just enjoy the bloodbath rather than being scared of it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think you have to have the right players for that, but that sounds like you have a good group for that kind of reckless behavior. That's fun. And also, so this was your first Kickstarter, right, guys? This is that's awesome.
First time running a Kickstarter. I think we both. Evlyn's participated in a lot of projects, a lot more than me. And I've just been previously on one, the Demon Collective.
Oh, perfect. But like the two of you together, this is your first together kind of thing. Perfect.
Yeah. And it was our first social financing project during the the third Design Quest event, and yeah, so I was a lot worried going into that, but with the help of Camilla supporting me, and I knew that she was able to handle some more technical things than myself I can do with this kind of thing, or just not to be alone having to deal with all this stress, like with the taxes stuff, the budget and everything. I felt like I was able to do it, but if I had been alone, I'm not certain I would have enjoyed everything.
Oh yeah, like are there any fun horror stories you can share, or any just fun sort of wholesome stories? Anything good that happened during the Kickstarter? Anything crazy, or was it mostly just kind of boring kind of issues and usual?
No, it was just like, yeah, it was just like a test of endurance mostly, I would say.
We tried to keep the Kickstarter simple and small. We didn't have a lot of add-ons and tiers and promotion.
Yeah.
That was also a thing. When we went to it, we were like, okay, look, this will be stressful, so we can make choice to help us and all this thing, and we decided to keep things very simple, like no reach goals and stuff, and keep it bare minimum. Because that was from my experience with Patreon. So I'm run a pretty successful Patreon, and I do it very minimalistic with like no special option and everything, and it runs smoothly.
Okay.
And because I discovered that people mostly what they want you to do the things that you want to do. They don't want you to get lost in all these extra bits and stuff. So they're happy when I produce drawing and I do stuff, and they don't care about like having
having a nice gold-plated hardcover version of Where the Wheat Grows Tall and all that stuff. Yeah.
So I think I know that some people can do it. It can be fun too. I'm not against that, but for us, I think it was a better choice to keep things simple.
Well, I think there's a lot of horror stories online of people biting off way more than they can chew. So I think having just consistent quality content, even if like you see other people doing like loads of stuff, I think it's better to do it your way than like the way you see others are doing it. Because there's lots of stories online of people doing their Patreon or Kickstarter and just getting burnt out from doing way too much, by themselves. So that makes a lot of sense.
It's small, but I think the biggest surprise was that Kickstarter doesn't give me as much power as like a secondary participant as much as I expected. Like I can comment, but I can't see the messages that are coming into the project.
Yeah, that was annoying. So we wanted to be like really equal, to have both equal access to the account, but it's not possible. You can only have a lead,
Really?
and the other are contributors. So because we decided to use my bank account, I was the lead, and Camilla was as a contributor only, sadly, on the platform.
Wow, I had no idea. That's so weird. That's pretty good to know going into making Kickstarters, knowing like who's doing what with that, because that's a pretty big deal. Not being able to do that. Like, did you have basically no power, Camilla, at all, or was it like?
I can do a lot of stuff. Like I can draft things, edit, post updates, see comments, all of that stuff. It's just specifically the inbox.
Oh, okay.
So like
Yeah.
helping people who are like, I didn't get an email is something that I just have to kind of watch Evlyn do.
Oh wow, that yeah.
So if somebody like comment an update, Camilla will see the comment and can answer. But if it's somebody write to like a direct messages, I only receive it and Camilla don't have access to.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know. Do you guys think like next time you might like do like a joint email kind of thing that you'll use, or is it just kind of that's just the breaks?
We're definitely going to re-examine the question of what's the best way to handle that.
Oh, sounds good. Sort of a two-parter. What made you guys get like into RPGs, and even past that, like what made you actually want to create RPG content? And if you need a second to answer that, like I mean, it's a pretty loaded question. But was there any sort of like session you had where you're like, oh, this hobby's for me, or anything like that you can remember?
So for me the two big things, like my two big touchstones in RPGs, or like in terms of like foundational memories, are one, I was on a backpacking trip. It was a solo game, and my friend like runs me like my formative D&D experience in the middle of the mountains. Which
Oh,
is like,
wow. That sounds like a life-changing experience. That's it's like spiritual.
It was like once. It was like maybe like twice for like 4 hours total. But in my head, like.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Well,
Then there's a really big gaming convention that I go to. Well, sorry, I'll try to. There's a really unique D&D thing called PrinceCon, which I could go on about forever, so I'll put a pin in that for now. But long story short, strangers play D&D together, and seeing how D&D is a space where so many things collide and have to negotiate that collision, and how that is ultimately like a site of growth, has been so interesting to me, like forever.
You mean like different like play styles and stuff and that sort of thing?
I mean, just that like there's a million things happening like when you play D&D. Like you're getting together with friends, you're getting outside of the house, maybe you're making dinner, you're making interesting strategic choices, you're role playing a character, you're making a silly voice. I mean, like you're drawing a map. There's like a million different reasons to play D&D, and they're all happening at the same time.
Yeah,
and that's really cool.
It is that. No, I think that's the reason why so many people love this hobby versus so many other things that like. Because I love video games, but video games do not give me the same thing that you can do with RPGs, which is like so much more limitless in that, and like what you're saying, where you have so many different aspects to it.
Well, I did discover role-playing game in high school at the library, at a school library. I was reading Make Your Own Choice Adventure, the classic one. And anyway, there was a magazine, and the magazine were talking about role-playing game, and I was like, oh, that's like choose your own adventure path, but with the people and stuff. And I was very curious about it. And so eventually I bought some book, and I got invited to a friend to play D&D. And yeah, so I've been playing for a good while, and yeah, and as a trans woman in the closet, it was kind of a refuge where I could be a woman. Even if sometimes I was worried I was playing too much woman character.
That's so cute though. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember those Choose Your Adventure books as a kid too. Those are always great. I remember loving those.
Mm.
That's great.
And as for making adventure in game, for me it was because so I started by doing comic books and design with illustration and comics and stuff. I studied art in school, and so at some point I made a blog about game, and it was mostly about illustration, and I was writing a bit sometimes stats for my illustration and stuff. And I discovered was part of the first OSR community on Google Plus, and everybody was creating stuff. So eventually, I was like, I brought back like my Zine, my habit of doing Zine, but this time I was doing role playing game stuff.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's great. That's I only got into the hobby like a few years ago. I think like 2017 or so. So I missed that whole Google Plus phase, but I was here just in time for everybody to come over to Discord and complain about Google Plus. So that's how I know about the whole OSR community that started there. I all I hear now is all like the good old days of Google Plus is what I hear all the time. Do you guys miss Google Plus yourself, or is it more just are you happy that things have moved on?
I I think yeah, it had some nice functionality, but overall I'm happy that I've moved on because the end of Google Plus was not a pleasant time with
Yeah,
some stuff, and so yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Camilla? What got you into making RPG content?
Um, when I worked at the game store, I saw a lot of like what people were coming in and asking for and wanting. Um, and I was running lots of adventures for like the kids D&D program actually. That like we did. It blew up. Kids really love D&D these days.
That's awesome.
So I was writing like an adventure like every 2 weeks, every month, really frequently.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then there was just like a small group that did the Demon Collective, and they invited me into it. So I was connected with some of the people, and I had never gotten to the end of like polishing and like putting hours and hours and hours into an adventure. It was usually like 4 hours slapped together the night before, good enough to convince 6 12-year-olds they're having a good time. And seeing like what you could do after all that much work was interesting. I wanted to do it again.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because you say like doing it for like 6 12-year-olds. I do that now with people who are adults. I'm like, I hope they don't notice that I just did all of this last night or 2 hours before the game, because I am absolutely an improv GM over a prep GM. I'm just a lazy person by design. So yeah, it's hard for me to not do
some
that.
bad lessons, some good lessons.
Yeah, no, I've learned to think on my feet, but at the same time, sometimes somebody will ask a question. I'm like, oh crap, I totally forgot that was a part of the story. Let me go back and check that.
Also, creating adventure or anyway role-playing game content is somehow a way for me, Camilla, to like share this hobby together because there's not a lot of two players game where we can play just both of us that satisfy us. So creating stuff, it's a way for us to play this game, in a sense, like
Absolutely.
the time we spend together creating stuff for opening game, it's like we're like playing together. in a
Yeah,
sense.
no, that's great. I totally get it, because that's the thing too. Once like everybody's busy with work and everything else, is that just hanging out and saying we should hang out sometime, you never end up hanging out. But if you can make it like a plan around it with like RPG writing or creating, yeah, you can actually get some good time in there. No, that sounds like a blast. That
And it's so expressive that like like hearing, like I really appreciate that like insightful creative choice that you made because you thought about this and like your values and like whatever is such like a more meaningful interaction than like, I don't know, like, wow, did you see that scene? He punched him real good.
yeah.
Like some evening we can spend an evening world building together while being on chat, and sometimes something come up of it. Some other time we just put it in the folder and actually think.
Oh yeah,
It's quite.
that's actually one of my questions too. I was gonna ask you guys: was there like any really like fun content or ideas that just didn't make the cut that you really wanted in Where the Wheat Grows Tall, but you weren't, or like is there like a top 3 or so? That because I just saw Camilla's face, that's like, man, I got a whole dictionary here for you. But anything you can talk about that is if you're hoping to save it for another scenario, I could.
I'll say there's an alternative, greatly expanded stat block for Troll the Troll.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. The troll was well. We had to restrain ourselves and just like.
Right. In terms of cut content, I think we merged 1 or 2 buildings on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
What else did we cut? We were bad about cutting things, so
We were more adding thing. Yeah.
So this is months and months of not cutting things from a single page adventure.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We just like, well, no, we'll just keep. We want it to be good.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, that's the great thing with like a story that happens with like the Fae is that you can do that sort of thing because things don't necessarily need to make complete sense and be like, yeah, this thing is right here because it's Fae realm. It makes sense that this thing's right next to this thing or isn't too far from it. So I can see why you guys had trouble cutting it because there's a lot of really fun stuff in there that I would not want not in there, you know.
Yeah, as so we like to use a way to work together is like adding a detail. You know, you start with something, after you come back and you say, oh, we can add this detail that inspired the other to come with another detail. So we kind of work with small accumulation of details sometimes. It's rare that we cut stuff. I would say the only thing we had to cut kind of was some illustration that did not fit in the layout. That's why I also wanted to do like an art book to put all the illustration and those that we did not have space for, so to make them available for the game masters.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, it actually does sort of segue into another question I had for you guys, because how long did it take you to do all the art for the scenario, Evlyn? Because there is so much art. Like, how much time did you...
Well, I did some at the beginning. I think a few before we started working on it, and after that, when we were doing things, I can quickly sketch. So sometimes we were talking about something, I was like, oh, that's so fun. I was drawing it, scanning it, and just sending it to Camilla as we were talking.
There was a lot of stuff that was art first, which like kind of drove the process a little bit.
Oh.
Which was really interesting.
Yeah, sometime I drew something inspired by something else, and we incorporated it. Like there was a back and back and forth.
Oh, that's a really interesting method.
But yeah, it was a lot of work, and one of the things that happened is that I made a big professional error. It's that when I drew this illustration, I did not knew what the layout will be, what the format of the book was. So later when we did the layout, there were some illustrations that were too big or that did not fit well. So I had to redraw a bunch of them. So that was a setback. That's one of the reasons we were a bit late in our dates and stuff with the Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So I had to redraw some stuff to make them fit better with the layout.
So everybody should send their angry emails towards you, not Camilla, is what you're saying.
No.
No, just no. I thought it came on. It came. I didn't realize it was late. I totally missed that. I must have missed that message because mine came in pretty soon. Other than dealing with Monkey's Paw, other than that was quick. Do you guys have do either of you have like a favorite illustration? Because mine has to be Oleg, the house spirit, because oh my god, he's just the cutest thing. He's so cute. One of my players made him a sticker on my Discord.
I like the Lyco a lot.
I really like the tree growing through an old barn.
Oh yeah.
The boy. With
Yeah.
The tree. There's something just about the shattered jar that was. I mean, of course, the unnamed most terrifying encounter.
Yes. That is a fantastic piece. I will not show that one on screen, but that one is a fantastic piece. If anybody wants to see what we're talking about, you buy the damn book. It's really good. Trust me.
And I have a lot of fun drawing the idols, the different. Yes, these are pretty fun to draw.
Yeah, they had a lot of details. Really fun, like going back and looking at them, because I usually read a scenario a few times before running it, and then going in game, being like, oh, I noticed another little detail here, and just like point it out. No, you guys had so many details, you Evlyn had so many details put into so many different parts. That's fun.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Where's Waldo. Sometimes you're just looking through and you notice like a moon here, or like a sun there.
Because the idol was something very fascinating for me, and I'm really glad that Camilla did a bit expand the concept and rework it and make it even more interesting. Because back in the days, I was enjoying a lot drawing Native American totems, but I did not want to use it because I did not want to appropriate that for myself. But when I discovered that Slavic mythology or Slavic people were also using idols that look like totems, I felt more comfortable drawing them in a different way. I did not represent any of their gods, divinity, but for the spirits, for the fairies, I felt it was okay. And so I had a lot of fun with these, and they became like an interesting part of the scenario.
Oh, that's great. Is it just the tomes that have Slavic influence, or is it also, like you said, like the fairies as well? Is there a lot of different pieces? I personally don't know much about Slavic mythology, so I don't know. Is everything sort of based off Slavic mythology, or is it just a few things here and there?
Well, it's more folk tale, folklore,
yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, we don't really explore the mythology. We don't we did not touch that. But I know that the Noon Lady can sometimes be a divinity. Like it's a blurry line with these things sometimes. But yeah. And I also was a big fan of Russian tales. But the illustration from Ivan Bilibin it's so great. They're a big inspiration for me too.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I can see on that cover there. It looks like there's some inspiration from that cover on the cover you guys had. Like there's a lot of nice little similarities there. That's great. Do you guys have any ideas for like future projects sort of taking place in the same world or like a similar theme at all, or is this more of like a one and done at this point? Are you guys just did you get all out of your system and you're good to never touch it again? Or
we haven't gotten it quite out of our system.
Oh,
we're hoping to move on. We have other exciting stuff too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so we still have like a very short, small adventure. It was an older adventure I was working on that was using the same character, and I decided to try to finish it. And so that will happen sometime when we have time. I will finish it, and it will be available for the backers of the project. So it's like a more simpler, like I would say 4-page adventure.
Oh, nice. Just a little extra treat. That's awesome.
Yeah, because this was our first Kickstarter, we were, pretty unsure about like pricing and it's hard to feel like I've earned, like thousands of dollars if I haven't done that before.
Yeah.
So we're trying to go above and beyond in giving people a great book and some great extra stuff, so we can sleep at night.
Fortunately, I do think that's most of the time I have here. I was going to ask you guys, do you guys have any other projects you're working on that you'd like to plug? Anything that's coming out soon or in the future?
We will have some because we cannot resist not doing projects, but we needed some cool down time because that Kickstarter project was
It was a lot.
it took a lot of our time and energy, so yeah, we need a bit of
I believe it.
yeah. So I don't know which one will be like of or many other things we want to do that we will say, okay, this one will make it happen now. That's another question.
For like a little behind the scenes, we've decided that we love working on projects with no intention of finishing them.
Oh.
It's like just like working on a project is like, let's pretend to have an idea. Well, not pretend to have an idea. Let's like chew on this for a little bit and then go chew on something else just for fun.
No, that makes sense. Sort of go with where your creativity is versus just sort of forcing yourself to like get things done, I guess.
Yeah, but I no doubt that something will eventually emerge. and that we will like say, okay, maybe we can finish this one.
Yeah, maybe Mothership. I don't know.
Ooh, that
Yeah,
sounds
we're
interesting.
we're really tempted to do something for this.
Oh, that'd be great. I love Mothership. I heard they just put out a box set, so I'll have to. If you guys do that, I might have to check that out.
Yeah, and
Not going on.
check out for the second issue of I've Mined the Mothership Sign. I did all the illustration for it.
Oh, awesome! I'll put that in the
And
description. That sounds.
so it's not out yet, I think, but it will soon.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's great. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. It was really nice, like sort of picking your brains and seeing what behind the scenes of this scenario.
Yeah, and if people that did not participate to the Kickstarter want a print copy, right now there's some print copy available on Monkeypox Game. Eventually, maybe in the following weeks, they will be also available on Exalted Funeral. And I don't know when, but we are also working with people in the UK to make it available on I'll Roll It Up in the UK.
Perfect. And for PDFs, can people get it on like drive-through, or is there anywhere in particular can they get the PDFs at all, or is that
Right now the PDF isn't for sale. It's going to be you can get that at Exalted Funeral. That's the only thing we haven't planned for that right now.
Perfect. Sounds good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. This was awesome. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah.